Hello everyone, this is me, Super Legend Plays Roblox, with here for a day 1 severe weather outlook. So first up, we got a slight risk for portions of North Carolina, and then we have a marginal that is covering parts full of North Carolina and up north for South Carolina. Up next, we have a severe weather outbreak here for an enhanced risk with portions for Wisconsin, portions of portions of Minnesota, portions of Iowa, and portions of Illinois. Now we have a slight risk, which will be covering parts of Wisconsin, some parts of Michigan, parts of northwest Indiana. It's going to be covering half parts of Illinois, half parts of Missouri, and half of Iowa. And now the marginal, which will be covering some parts of Indiana, northwestern Ohio, parts of Michigan, parts of Minnesota, parts of Iowa, parts of Nebraska, parts of South Dakota. Alright, and have parts of North Minnesota. We're going to go to the tornado threat. We're going to have to go to a tornado threat. We have a 10% tornado threat, which will be covering parts of Wisconsin, parts of northeastern Iowa, parts of southern Minnesota, and we have a 5% tornado threat, which will be covering some parts of Iowa, some parts of Minnesota, parts of Wisconsin, could be parts of Michigan. But now let's go to the 2% tornado threat, which will be covering parts of Michigan, parts of Wisconsin, parts of southern Minnesota, parts of northern Iowa, parts of northern Illinois, and parts of Michigan. The 10% will be covering Waterloo, Iowa, La Crosse, Wisconsin, Wausau, Wisconsin, Cedar Falls, Iowa, Stevens Point, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, Rockford, Illinois, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Green Bay, Wisconsin. And now we have a 2%, which will be covering Chicago, Illinois, Des Moines, Iowa, Aurora, Illinois, Naperville, Illinois, Joliet, Illinois. And we also have a 2% tornado threat for parts of Florida. Have a 2% for Florida. And I gotta read some populations. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, Rockford, Illinois, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Green Bay, Wisconsin. The site is Chicago, Illinois, Raleigh, North Carolina, Greensboro, North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Now we have the marginal: Charlotte, North Carolina, Omaha, Nebraska, Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Now we're going to read this here, and then we're going to go to the wind threat and the hail threat. There is an enhanced risk for severe thunderstorms this afternoon until early tonight from eastern Iowa and northwestern Illinois across Wisconsin into western and upper Michigan. Whoever wants to read all that, you can read all this. So Now we have a wind threat. We have a 30% wind threat for covering half of Wisconsin, half of northern Iowa, and half of southern Minnesota, and half of Illinois. Now we have the 15% wind threat, which will be covering parts of Michigan, parts of Wisconsin, half parts for Iowa, parts of Missouri, parts of Minnesota, parts of Indiana, and parts of Illinois. Now, we have a 5% wind threat, which will be covering some parts of Michigan, some parts of Indiana, parts of Illinois, parts of Missouri, parts of Iowa, and parts of Minnesota. We're going to go to the hail threat. We have a 15% hail threat. We have a 50% hail threat, which will be covering parts of Wisconsin, parts of Minnesota, parts of Illinois, parts of Iowa, and half parts of Michigan. Now we're going to read the wind threat population. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, Rockford, Illinois, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Green Bay, Wisconsin. The 15% which will be Chicago, Illinois, Raleigh, North Carolina, Greensboro, North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina, Grand Rapids, Michigan. And now alright, come on. And now the 5% which will be covering Charlotte, North Carolina, Omaha, Nebraska, Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Which I could have read it, but I was going to read the larger population again. And now the hail threat: Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, Rockford, Illinois, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Green Bay, Wisconsin, Chicago, Illinois, Omaha, Nebraska, Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota, Des Moines, Iowa. That's your severe weather outlook for today. And remember, microwave, super